Welcome to the next episode of the Seed of Pseudology podcast. I am Sentient Roomba.
Hi, I'm the anecdotalist.
And I'm Cypher, and today we have a special edition, because we're all special, and it's going to be a Meet the Podcast episode, okay? So essentially what we had in mind is we're going to go through some commonly asked questions on first dates, um, which is going to be sweet.
You'll get the simulated dating experience
Yeah,
as if we were speed dating right now.
yeah, so what do they call that? Parasocial relationships or something? Y'all can form
Exactly.
them with us now. This is your opportunity. Okay? Look at
Highly
my eyes.
encouraged.
Highly encouraged. I will respond to your DMs. That's a promise. And, okay, I think the first question was going to be asked by the anecdotalist. So,
I'm actually gonna do we want to do question one or do we want to skip right to question two? 'Cause I
what
think
what what question's burning on your tongue right now? What do
um
you want to know about me and Roomba?
actually yeah, let's do what do you like to do in your free time? Question number one. What do you like to do in your free time?
All right, Roomba.
I
Oh, fuck. Okay. Um, What do I like to do in my free time? I
so you
do
actually okay, so you actually do okay.
do a
'Cause
lot of
I was expecting video games,
a lot
but
of
you
reading
actually
books.
read. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of reading books. Um, a lot of meditation, and I spend time with friends, either in person or on the internet, playing video games. Yeah, occasionally. I try to stay off the computer as much as possible, but
That's
mainly
even
reading,
more
and my
me.
main hobbies are reading and meditation and studying at the moment.
That's cool.
I kind of bounce around, so I'll hyperfixate on something for a while, and sometimes it'll be something that's actually useful, like reading or studying a specific thing, but then other times it'll be like Netflix or YouTube rabbit holes or building like tiny model uh houses or whatever it is, I'll or video games, like I'll hyperfixate on something for like 2 or 3 weeks and do it with every single second of my free time until I get sick of it, and then I'll move on to something else. And that part's constantly rotating, but um, reading books probably would be the thing that's like consistent throughout.
Yeah.
Wow. No, for me, it's video games currently playing.
Oh yeah.
The PC version of Horizon Zero Dawn, and of course the sim racing stuff. Just spent like obscene amount of money on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very dad thing, like like flight sim, train sets, like
Mm-hmm.
the table train thing. But for me, it's sim racing. Um, so question number two.
Well, as an aside, I actually had an opportunity to go to the anecdotalist's house and use the sim racing machine, and it's actually fucking awesome. I had a great time. It made me horribly sick. Like, not
Well,
very. It didn't take very long.
we were doing the virtual reality.
Yeah, the virtual
Thing.
reality. I was sitting in the chair. I was doing the whatever, and it was, oh man, it was a lot of fun. It was
And
really
you can
cool.
also do three monitors. Me, I don't have the space. I've just bought like such irresponsible purchasing. I just bought a $450 curved monitor,
Yeah.
the ultra wide, which I'm not even going to be using as my. It's 144 hertz, 1440p. It's not even going to be my primary monitor. It's going to be at the side of my desk.
Whatever.
So that's responsible of me. But hey, all right. Question number two. I will answer it first. Are you more of an indoors? Well, I'll answer it first and then I'll ask what until you think. Says, are you more of an indoors or outdoors person? I like to think of myself as an outdoors person. Like I think society kind of shames like that. I don't know, shames being an indoors person, being like a homebody. So I like to think of myself as an outdoors person, but I'm truly a sort of indoors person. I've lived in very interesting cities in the past, like for example London, and then in Scotland, and I didn't really capitalize on any of these kind of locations. And I where I live now, still probably less interesting than those places, but um, I I think I'm just an indoors person, and I think I have to accept it and embrace it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think me, I'm a little of both. I'm definitely by default, like my nature is a homebody indoors. I can stay in one room with with the fucking lights off, full time, reading a book or sitting there looking at the wall or something or playing video games. I can easily do that all the time. However, I do like going outdoors a lot. That's where I usually find myself like that's where I think I'm usually like the happiest in the moment is whenever I'm outdoors and doing something like not in my room. It's just I have to like force myself to go do that, but it's never a regret. So I think I'm a little of both, but I'm definitely by default nature an indoors person.
An ambi-doors person.
Sure, whatever. Ambi doors.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. Like, I spend the majority of my time indoors, but whenever I do go hiking or camping or to the beach or whatever, I very much enjoy it. I just need to stop being so fucking
Do you
lazy all the
camp in
time.
a tent or an RV? Because I think those are the two types.
A tent, definitely.
Okay. No, for me it would be an RV. I never actually rented one, but I mean I probably rent one. The actual trailers aren't as pricey as I thought they're about the price of a car. Um, so I would do that because I think you can either camp in tents or you can't. I mean I have, but it's just like if I had the option, it would be an RV.
Yeah, I think
Wake,
I've been
caravan.
I've been camping one time and it was just on a whim and it was for several days and I had no idea what to expect and I honestly thought I would hate it, but I was just like screw this, I needed to get out of my situation, so I went and camped. And honestly, absolutely life-changing experience. I would recommend it to anybody. Like you need that isolation sometimes like in nature, and I turned my phone off. I brought a copy of like a collected poetry book and a copy of Walden, and that's it. And man, it was absolutely life changing. So I have to recommend go touch grass at least every now and then on your own terms if you're scared of grass or allergic or something, you know. But do that. It's great. Find someone that
I'll
you trust and that's a buddy and go camp.
I'll be honest, like most of the times that I went camping were for like music festivals or with a group of friends to where it wasn't so much camping as it was getting really drunk in the woods and passing out in a tent and
Yeah.
then doing that for several days. So you don't really get the camping
Yeah.
experience of like living in the woods. You're doing a party outside.
Yeah.
Or a music festival, which is really
And
fun.
that's fun too. I just, you know, like the kind of camping I think everyone should do at least once is the kind that just requires mindless labor with nothing to distract you for a little while and nothing to distract you from the surroundings. It's you cannot beat it. You cannot or not necessarily beat it. You can't get that experience anywhere else. Or just like okay, like I'm just gonna do some quick carrying stuff like you know like the
Well, that was what we
filling up the
talked
water,
last
etc. Huh?
last episode. We talked about how everything is simulated, whereas camping is probably closer to our base state as humans, what we
Yeah,
should be doing.
maybe yeah.
Um, Not necessarily on the sort of subsistence level, but the idea of most of our history, we've had a house and we sort of step outside and it's nature.
Yeah.
Whereas right now we step outside and it is concrete. So, all right, question three is quite interesting. I'm gonna direct this to Roomba first. Who is the
Uh-oh.
most fascinating person you've met?
Oh shit. That I've like actually met?
Yeah,
Like most fascinating person that I've met?
fascinating. Yeah.
Oh, I gotta think about this for a minute. You have
All
to
right,
come
I'm
back
gonna
to me. That's
open
a
with
hard one.
mine.
Yeah, open with yours because I have to think too.
Um, Actually, I think it was an Uber driver. Probably not the most fascinating, like, but this is the first guy that comes to my head, so maybe he is the most. But he was an Afghan gentleman, and he was in the Mujahideen, and he was driving me in the when during the Soviet invasion, and he was driving me to my work, and he started talking about and he said he was like, he remembers that him and his uncle were going to in the process of shooting down a hind, um, and he was trying to with RPG, and he was trying to tell his uncle, don't do it like this. I don't know, some sort of basically the it doesn't seem like a good idea, or like how things were positioned. So his uncle got torn apart by the Heinz main gun, or main cannon or whatever, and then he had to like take the pieces off his uncle back to his village to show to his family. And he like talked about how he met with like CIA advisors and all this kind of things. And then I got to work at this point, and then I was like, oh, that was vague. And he basically said, I kissed the ground once, and I will never in Afghanistan, and then he will never. He said he will never return. So that was a pretty landmark. He's definitely one of the most fascinating. I can't think of anything else, but that was very interesting, um, for me just to meet somebody like that.
I
Man, you
can't.
shouldn't have gone first.
Yeah, I
That's like
can't
really
follow
hard
up
to
on that.
follow
What
up.
the fuck?
It was like
Oh,
my first thought when you said that, like, because I'm fucking retarded, was like my husband, because he's like really fucking interesting and fascinating, which is obviously why I love him. But then you're like fucking crazy story thing, which made me think I did get to meet and talk to this woman who was an army medic. Um, she's an officer, I think, and she had been a POW, so they were evacuating people in helicopters, and they ended up getting shot down, and she got captured. And she told us this whole story of like everything that she experienced over this time, and like they weren't tortured, but they were tortured. And she was there for a while, and they eventually got released. And she like went through the whole story, and then at the very end, somebody asked her, like, um, was it hard for you being there, being a woman, especially like were you scared that they were going to sexually assault you and stuff like that? And she was like, oh yeah, like I got raped like multiple times while I was there. But like she just, the way that she said it, where she had regaled us with this entire story of like how difficult this time was, but like that part specifically wasn't like a huge factor in her story. It was like, well, yeah, of course that happened, like as a part of this larger traumatic event that I went through. And she was like incredibly just resilient in general. Like that was the point of her sharing her story and stuff like that. But I don't know why that specific part of the story, like the question and how she responded to it, has stuck with me because this was like, I don't know, 10 years ago that I talked to her. But yeah.
it's a pretty on par story you just shared there, Wilbur.
And also my husband, because he's incredibly interesting.
I don't even know how to follow up on either of those stories. I have not, frankly speaking, like I've talked to a lot of interesting people over the years. I guess, but like as far as someone that's just shared an incredibly moving story or something, not necessarily. I think my mind first goes to probably my high school teacher, that I looked up to a lot. He was my senior year English teacher, and he also was my academic decathlon advisor. But essentially, I mean, he was just like an older, fat white guy that had been teaching forever, and he spoke like 8 different languages, and he knew anything that you would ever have to ask him about, all sorts of history and literature and poems memorized, and he wrote poems, and he wrote autobiography or biographies for people in the community. This is like small town fucking nowhere. So like in a tiny little pond, this man's like a gigantic fish, right? So like that's just the jarring contrast, I suppose, which makes him stand out as the most interesting person that I've ever met. And he certainly, me and him certainly got along a lot. I mean, especially back then, I loved poetry and like linguistics, and that's what we would talk about a lot in literature. And I was starting to read, or I started to get back into reading a lot more and more and more at the time, and he encouraged me on in those kind of pursuits, and I think that's just really what stuck out to me. But as far as someone with like some sort of really cool traumatic life story that I've met in person. No, not really. I've got internet friends that I find fascinating, but nothing in person yet. Not really. I'm the
Was
most interesting
your
person I know.
was your teacher, were they were they from a sort of higher education background, as in somebody that's gone from high school, college, straight into a career, or were they a career changer? Because I actually find that teachers who don't come from a higher education background tend to actually be better teachers and tend to be, because I think someone that comes from a higher education background and gets into teaching, they feel a bit resentful, they feel a bit bitter about it because they feel like they were destined to greater things. Whereas a blue collar career changer into teaching is very grateful to be there. So I'm just wondering if you're this role model you had, were they from that like a sort of academic background, or were they more from a blue collar background?
Um, I would probably say he's probably more of an academic background. I know he got accepted into Brown University, um, like the one of the I think it's like one of the smallest Ivy Leagues, um, Ivy League schools or whatever, like way back in the 50s or something or 60s. I don't remember, but um, I think he's your typical academic course, but like he's an academic through and through. Like he wanted, like he also taught at the college and he taught at the high school, and he was like that's what he wanted to be. And that's where he had been for a long time. I'm not positive if he worked something different if he was a career change. It wouldn't surprise me though. He had some life experience. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, but I'm gonna jump ahead. Um, some of these are kind of mundane and like, I don't know, you might surprise you, we might surprise each other
Yeah,
with some of this, but okay, here we go. Are you a morning person or a night owl? Cypher.
that's a hard question for me.
It is okay.
Historically, I stay up to like really unholy hours. And usually regret it the next day. But like I'm historically I stay up really late, and I'm that's when I get most of my stuff done. However, recently I've been waking up around 4 a.m. or so, and just like slowly trudging into my day. And so by the time class starts, it's been like 4 hours already, and I've already made breakfast, and I've gotten ready, and I'm just chilling, and I've read, and I've meditated, and I stretched. Like it's great. So I think I'm the most effective in the morning. I just I have a unhealthy relationship with sleep, and I just want to sleep so much. And I love dreaming, and because I have like so much control over my dreams that I could just sit there and be in complete imaginary land forever. And a lot of times I'll wake up after out of a dream, and I'll say, no, I want to continue that dream, and I'll go right back to sleep, and then I'll keep dreaming and keep playing it out. So it's really hard for me to get up in the mornings. But if I can overcome that, I think morning times is when I'm clearest. Like the impressions of the past day are not there, um, and my body feels freshest, and it's great. I love it. I would consider myself a morning person nowadays.
I am both a morning and a night person, but for the exact opposite reason as you. Like, I hate being asleep. I stay up. I try to stay up. Like, I'll force myself to go to bed because I have to go to work and I don't want to die the next day. But if I could, I would stay up like all night. And then I still, though, wake up at like 3, 4 in the morning. And it's kind of one of those things where you wake up a little bit and you could go back to sleep, but my brain is just instantly like, oh, you're awake. You're gonna, like, you have time to do things. You're gonna miss shit. Like, wake up now and start doing stuff. So then I end up not getting enough sleep. But I also can't lucid dream, and most of the time I don't remember my dreams. So maybe, maybe if I
It's
had some more
addicting. No,
incentive.
yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
not worth it at all. It's so addicting. It's so addicting.
Yeah, it doesn't help that I'm over here on Japan time, so like mornings before I go to work is the best time to talk to people at home. So it's part of why I wake up early, because then I immediately get on my phone to talk to people back in the States.
Yeah.
But I do like to have several hours, like you said, to wake up, I'll drink a cup of coffee, I'll browse like the internet, do whatever so that I can kind of slowly wake up before I have to go to work. Because
Yeah.
if I just immediately, like, my alarm goes off and I have to get up and get dressed, then I'll just want to die.
Yeah, it should be awful. And quick aside, like I'm like a halfway lucid dreamer, so like I have control over it, but like the main plot is still kind of going on in the background, but I have some control over that. Like I do say lucid dreaming's awful and I don't want to do it. However, I do want to get to the point where I can meditate in my sleep. I think because that is a thing that people do, and I think that would be incredible. Like that's what I want to do. That's a place that you can get to. We'll figure that out later. But anyway, continue.
I think I was a morning person. I don't know if anyone else had this, but as like a teenager, like I wake up at 7 consistently. Um, and then like I didn't nap or something. I don't know, because in the UK or in Europe, you would take public transport to get like to get to school. So buses and trains would have school kids on it, like in Japan, I'm sure. So I would nap on the way home, but I don't know. And then now, and then ever since going to college, yeah, I hit a period of going to bed at like 5 a.m., waking up at 2, and I lived this was a far north Scotland, so I was only seeing like a few hours of daylight at that point, waking up at 2. But now I have the revenge bedtime procrastination thing.
Yep.
So once I put my children down, it's like I had to do all this shit I gotta do from like 8 till midnight or beyond. But then like as Wimber said, if I then I will die the next day if I stay up late, and then that's even worse with the kids because I have to look after them. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think this morning person or yeah. I don't know. I feel like I used to be a morning person. I'm definitely more productive. I think everyone, I guess this is one of these like false, maybe this is just a generational thing now. I think everyone says, "Oh, I'm most productive in the morning, but I stay up late." And maybe this question was better suited for like the pre-smartphone era or something, like the
Yeah.
pre-08. Like I classify 2008
Yeah.
as the great threshold.
Well, that's
That's
interesting. Like, um, I don't know what I was gonna say. Not interesting
2008.
anymore.
Well,
Shit, what was I
2008
gonna
is when
say?
I turned 18, but it was also the year of the Great Recession, and a lot of things changed in that year.
I
So
I was gonna say like I always think that I will be more productive the longer I stay awake, but I never am. Like it's always like whenever I'm staying up late into the night to get shit done, I'm never actually really getting shit done. It's just like kind of droning on, barely existing, like at that point, right? Because it's so late, and then you ruin the next day too. So like I just don't know if it's sustainable. Because once upon a time, I think whenever I was in high school during a summer break, I changed my sleep schedule because I hated sleep. I was like, I absolutely hate sleep. It's such a waste of time. I'm not going to do it anymore. This is dumb. So I changed my sleep schedule to like, I think it was um, no, it was like 5 1 hour naps or something, or like 30-minute
Huh.
naps throughout the day. So I would stay awake and only get 30-minute naps 5 times a day. And that's supposed to like kind of sustain you, and it was fine. First off, it's god awful, so awful. But it worked. Like it kind of worked. Like I was productive and I was like able to kind of do stuff all like throughout the entire time, and like I had various friends that I could talk to in various time zones, and like I was always busy and stuff. But like it puts you in this weird different mental head state. This is when I found like some of my favorite video games, some of my favorite albums and stuff is at this time, because I was on like I was in like a dream state while waking, because I just was so sleep deprived that I was like going through this very highly mood susceptible, like mood shifting susceptible phase or something like that. I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah, you'll make yourself go insane doing that. That's not it's not healthy. Don't do that.
yeah, I'll never do it again. I felt awful, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
some of these questions get pretty good. Let's get TV shows.
Community
Um,
and The Wire.
what are some accomplishments that you are really proud of?
Pride is vanity.
Not traits, accomplishments.
Yeah, all pride is vanity. I'm not proud of anything.
Right. I thought you said pride and vanity. I thought you were like, oh, you're very proud in your vein. I was like, okay. All pride is vanity. Well, I'm luckily for you, I'm very vain. Uh, I mean, it isn't really an accomplishment, but this isn't a funny. Well, first of all, let's. 'Cause mine's a little long-winded. So, Roomba, what are yours? I don't know. Yeah, what is your accomplishment or an accomplishment you're really proud of?
I don't know that it would necessarily be any specific accomplishment, but I think the thing that I'm most proud of about myself is my constant need for growth, which leads to like a lot of random accomplishments that may or may not be actually that individually I may or may not be proud of, but like I can't I can't sit still in one place and I have this constant drive to like if I see something that I don't understand, I have to learn to understand it and I have to like keep driving that so that I'm always looking for something else and something else and something else. So if I look back on who I was and the things that I even like a year or two ago that I just didn't understand, um, it's just a like constant growth and I like that. I'm scared that one day I'll turn into the boomer who's just like has the same takes for the rest of their life. It seems like people reach a certain point in like middle age where they feel like they have everything figured out and for the rest of their life they just give out boomer takes where they're just recycling the same talking point over and over and over, and it's really sad. You see a lot of intellectuals do that who came out with really fucking groundbreaking theories in their 20s and then they get in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s and they're just using that theory as like a fucking hammer that they try to force on every single like new situation until they die, and like they can't grow or change with the times. And I'm sure that'll probably happen to me one day. I'm sure you don't notice it when it happens, and that that worries me, but for now i think I think just growth in general, I like it
Oh,
based.
I mean, yeah, I call that the march ad. So that I like. I don't think I'm not sure. For me, it would probably be more just a sequence of stuff I've done. So what country I started with, I was born and raised in, where I went to college, the fact I joined uh new organization in a foreign country that had nothing to do with that was so far removed from my upbringing. But this isn't really an accomplishment, but it does fall into this kind of diverse series of experiences. So when I was 18, I was in this. I was very special. So I was in this organization. It was like a it's like a volunteer. It's like Peace Corps, like sort of. It wasn't like it was like a it was an NGO. That's it, NGO. And we were in India, and uh, we were in India for 3 months, and half of us were from India, half of us were from the UK, and we were had to find somewhere to stay for our like a mid-phase break. So we're halfway through. We needed oh no. It was for New Year's 2008 or 2009, whatever. 2008 going to 2009. We had to find somewhere and we were going to stay at somebody's house um in the city. I forgot what city it was. It was like some low like I don't know what city it was, but anyway, but that plan had fallen through. So we stopped at a well, I don't want to say what it was first because that would ruin the story. But we stopped at this place alongside one of the main arterial roadways, and there was a gas station. And then there was like a courtyard, and in the back there was this concrete building. I went into. We were looking for, and I went inside, and there was it was this hallway with a series of rooms on the side. There were no furniture in any of these rooms, and there was a light at the front. at the very front of the this little back building, this sort of like outbuilding, and that color of that light was red. Now me being 18 years old, I was like, I, I went back to my team and I was like, most of my team was like early mid 20s. I'm like one of the youngest ones there. And I go back to, I was like, hey guys, it's great. We can stay here for New Year's. Um, there's all these little back rooms that we can all have and all share. And I didn't, the red light did not process with me at all. And of course, we also have to consider that most of our team, at least on the UK side, well, actually, mo most of our team were women, and so at least half were white women. So we went to the owner of what was we found out to be a truck stop, uh, and we were like, "Oh, hey, can we stay here?" We gave them like a certain amount of money, and we started doing New Year's partying, and then we were like dancing in like a circle and like by the we were drinking and then like random sort of Indian men would just like join our circle or dancing and it was like to order like just I don't know it's just like who are you and then just kind of like force them away and whatnot um and then we went into the back room finally the back building to all finally lay down and go to sleep. And my partner, this massive guy, massive Indian guy from Delhi, and we like barricaded the entrance. Um, and he would like stay up all night with like a shovel. I remember laying down next to my supervisor, and I was like, "Oh, we're staying at a truck stop or something," and he was like, "Yes, yes, we are." Um, yeah, that went a bit. Yeah, so that's not really an accomplishment, but it's probably one of the funniest. The kind of, I mean, obviously, maybe at the time it wasn't funny, but in hindsight, um, yeah, no, that is just like the depth of my cluelessness. Not the depth, like the vastness of my cluelessness is like represented by that story. So, um,
Y'all stayed at some sort of. I'm assuming the red light has something to do with like a red light district they call it or something like that. Like it's a.
yeah, no, yeah, that okay. I was hoping, yeah. I forgot to mention in each of these rooms, um, you remember? Oh, you remember? I think it was like from our parents' generation. Those cute, lovey, cartoon characters. They were like dolls, like baby dolls, and they were all like very cutesy sort of. It was like maybe 50s artwork. I'm trying to think what it was, but
Uh,
in each one they had a picture of these. Um. So, and it didn't process. I just thought, oh, these are little rooms, and this would also explain why all these random Indian men would just kind of like show up in the courtyard because they saw this whole gaggle of white British women with Indian women who are from the large cities, Delhi and Bombay, and we were in some like back backwater city. Um, so yeah, so that was the day I inadvertently made my team got my whole entire team of 20 people to stay for 2008 New Year's at a truck stop.
Basically like a brothel,
Yeah.
like a hookup place. You're proud of that.
it's an
I know
interesting story.
I was explaining that and then like as I got further into the story I was like, "Oh, this is actually kind of terrible. It's actually much worse. I don't know why I'm so nonchalant about it."
No, that's fine.
So
That's a funny story.
where was it? That wasn't some obscure things. Okay. Here's next one's good because I think we'll all have something really interesting about this. What are some obscure things that you are or were really into, Cypher?
Obscure.
I think that'd be a good one.
Oh boy. It just depends on what you consider obscure.
He
Um,
only likes things that are obscure. It's like his entire personality. He's a hipster through and through.
I'm not a hipster through and through. um, that's hard to say. Honestly, most of my interests have been redirected recently, within the last year or so. I guess you could probably consider um, like theology and some forms of philosophy obscure, I guess. It just depends on what like audience you're talking about. I think like a lot of audiences that I participate with online would not find any of that shit obscure, and people that I talk to in real life are like, "What's existentialism?" You know, so it just depends. Like my interests have drastically shifted. Um, like most of the things that I was interested in heavily, especially the obscure hipster shit. Like most of my coping mechanisms, I suppose I could say, are just completely gone. But like, yeah, I like a lot of bands with a few hundred views on YouTube, and you know, like I like movies like Cloud Atlas that no one's ever heard of, but they're fucking based, and um, I know a lot about random random shit. I don't know. I think it's kind of a hard question for me because kind of like what Roomba said, I do find my way into a lot of obscure spaces and learn about them because sometimes they're interesting, not because they're obscure, um, just because they're interesting. So like I know a lot about mysticism and Eastern philosophy and religion, which I guess is kind of obscure in the West. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, it's like easy to forget how weird that is because like you said, pretty much everyone I talk to online is into like weird obscure shit and like philosophy and but then yeah, if you talk to just your average person on the street, like they think that I'm fucking weird, which I am, but not
Yeah.
like not for that reason, I don't think. But yeah, so all of that shit and then I like weird surrealist film and media in general. And then like I mentioned earlier, I like to build tiny model things, like tiny things, things that are very small. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a house, it could be a car, it could be whatever, just like little just has to be very small.
Um, I used to be into obscure. Like once you become a parent, at least for the initial for the early years, 0 through 5, I think like you lose a little bit yourself until the kids are a bit more autonomous. Um, what obscure stuff? Like I thought my bands were obscure, and this was shit like back when I was 17, like Nightwish, which is not obscure if you go to like continental Europe and the UK. In my space, I thought they were obscure, but not really. Oh, I don't know. I don't know why asked this question, thinking I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so obscure, I'm so hipster and unique, and I'm thinking I'm doing a sort of quick inventory, and I'm like, actually, no, I think I'm pretty. I like,
You're into car sims, dude.
yeah, okay, like the racing simulator, which racing, sorry, not racing simulator, sounds nerdy. Sim racing sounds less nerdy than racing simulator. So, to me, that's like we. It's an extremely expensive hobby. The nice thing about it is that because the hobby is gate kept by a high price tag, um, the community for it is like not fucking dumb, which is nice. Like everyone there's pretty old, like pretty older, pretty mature, has like reasonable. Whenever it gets political or even a slightest bit, people are pretty like reasonable about it. So in sim racing, is adjacent to that is motorsports, which so when we end up, it's pretty male dominated motorsports, but when we talk about the potential for female drivers, it doesn't get weird because most of these people like I don't know, it's just interesting that it's such an extremely expensive hobby that the members of the community are just pretty cool fellas
Yeah, not
and
only
they're pretty
that,
chill.
but whenever I try to get kind of like you sent me a sim racing like some instructions and stuff with some video games that I bought and tried to follow the instructions. Um, I think any kind of barrier to entry, like, cause like there's like a few pages of instructions and like settings that I had to go through and change, and alter and like experiment with my own
That was
setup.
just for hang on, that was just for a gamepad.
And that was just for a gamepad on one game. So like, not only is the price kind of gatekeepy, but like the fact that I have to like think about it. I can't just like jump into it. You know, I think that also
Well, that
probably
one, yeah,
helps the
because
hobby.
that with the gamepad, you're adjusting something that's designed to be like it's not like when they make Microsoft Flight Simulator or when they make Forza or Gran Turismo, they make those specifically that they can be used for
Yeah,
the controller. But you were playing something that was specifically designed. They spent a lot of time on these kind of pieces of equipment.
yeah,
So you were adjusting. You were basically handicapped. Whereas you play Forza or Gran Turismo, you can just
yeah,
jump right in.
sure.
Um,
I guess to add, I was really into harsh noise music.
Huh.
I guess that's kind of obscure. No one ever knows what I'm talking about whenever I say harsh noise, but I loved it for a while. But I was also like depressed off my ass simultaneously, so I think that helped.
sorry, my phone started flashing at me. Uh, yeah, just I guess I didn't consider that obscure because it was expensive. I
Nope,
don't know. Uh,
perfectly obscure.
yeah. No,
Oh, and I guess, um,
oh no, you went to. I was really into. So, what was the music genre you said?
harsh noise.
Is that like black metal?
No, it's like
Okay.
it's like industrial noise. Like,
Oh, just like banging like those in not what those old school like the one that Sesame Street character living what's his name?
Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch. Is it
Yeah, so
like
like for example, like a popular harsh noise artist, Pharmacon, I believe, she her very first concert, like her very first concert that she threw together, she drug a bunch of metal sheets out of her garage and was banging on them and for instrumentality. Not saying
well
that
on
that's
that?
exactly what I listen
Okay,
to, but
so
like for
I
example,
can build off of that.
yeah, for
Do you
Pharmacon,
know what? Do
yeah,
you know what MIDI music is?
yeah,
Cipher.
yeah,
Rumba. Do you remember MIDI music?
No.
So MIDI music is the music back. I want to say the late 90s. So on N64, not chip tunes like NES or SNES, more
it's
like
basically chiptune.
yeah, well, yeah, it's a bit more. It's like N60, like the sort of late 90s PC games,
Yeah,
like the music for that.
yeah.
Mm.
So I
That's
was
one of
like,
the that was one of my favorite things in the Nier game. Like for parts of it, you
yeah, when you're
when you're
hacking,
hacking stuff, yeah, and it like plays the same version of the regular music, but like it like
yeah,
8-bit.
I don't think that, I think that might be MIDI style. My formative journeys into music were, hang on, Cypher, you have to listen. This is important. This is important. Put the headphones back on. My formative ventures into music, like when I listened to music as a preteen, like middle school, was MIDI music, and I think it was really weird. And I would listen
MIDI is cool.
to I would listen to pop, like because a lot of people they would convert real music tracks into MIDI,
Yeah.
and I would just listen to that version instead because I hated vocals. And then what I'd also do is I'd put it on a floppy disk and I'd go downstairs to my Roland keyboard, which had a floppy disk drive. I'll pop it onto there, and I'll just play it, and I'll just sit there and I'll listen to it. And it would be stuff like Madonna's Frozen. There was a MIDI version of that. It was really cool. Metallica's Jump in the Fire, MIDI version of that. Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit. A lot of like Final Fantasy, even video game stuff, which is moving on to CD. So now they've got like synth orchestra stuff, but I would just listen to like the MIDI versions of that.
Yeah.
And all my formative music experiences I had my cousin who was like, "You need to stop fucking listening to MIDI. You need to listen to real music." So he got for my 13th birthday. He got me By the Way by Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's like it was my first album. Oh yeah, my parents they had no fucking idea what I liked because they just heard me listen like MIDI music all the damn time. So one of Christmas gift they got me a CD of I forgot what album it was, one of the early albums of the Gorillas.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. That's a good
But I didn't
connection
listen
that
to
they
it.
made.
Yeah, and so they tried to, but yeah, my cousin who was a couple years older, he was like, "You need to stop fucking listening to this shit." And then we
We
get
do
into
eventually,
arguments
of course.
over like MSN Messenger about how no, if I play my MIDI music on a really fucking good keyboard, like more higher end keyboard, it comes out pretty high quality. I mean, it didn't. It just sounds like fucking MIDI music all the
Yeah,
time. But yeah, I was really into MIDI music.
and
Really,
this too. Okay,
what's that?
so
A comic book.
no. So this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness. This is just one book out of a lot of books I have over there. Um, this is a role playing game. Okay, where you play as a mutated animal. You get to choose a mutated animal, like for example, let's see, an owl. Okay, and they have different statistics based on if I want to be an owl, and you get to like spend points based on how human you want the owl to be or how owl you want the owl to be, and like buy shit like that. But anyway, this is produced by Palladium Games, which is my favorite role playing system. Which is extremely or Palladium Books, excuse me. That's what their name. That's what their company name is. But this is also extremely obscure. Palladium Books is because they like had a kind of a brief heyday in I think the early '90s to 2000s, and but after that they were pretty much unseated by every other role playing game person. But I have so many fucking Palladium books, and they're so off the wall, and I mean, hell, they did fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they do other similar things that are just kind of wacky, and their systems, frankly, kind of sucks, but I love it. That's probably also the most obscure thing that I'm into.
I think
One
the
of them.
moral of this question is that you are both giant fucking nerds. Oh my God.
See, this goes back to one of our like previous episodes. It's like I was like, oh, I'm a fucking nerd, like, and then they go another fucking like Marvel. Oh, I'm really into Marvel. It's like, fuck you. You didn't put MIDI music on a floppy disk drive and go downstairs and play it on your fucking keyboard. We would have talked about being about a fucking nerd, Jesus.
Holy fuck. That is
That's
fantastic.
fair.